In this video, we're going to discuss the 2019 May 23rd release of Quincy. We're going to do our normal video where we're going to go over the high-level numbers, which we'll do right now. There were 48 changes, 51 features, and 46 bugs fixed. This release has a lot more features and changes than normally, but I wouldn't call these substantial things. We did a lot of optimization in terms of how the widgets load and things of that nature that are sort of behind the scenes, and those resulted in these numbers being inflated. In fact, the number of sort of user impactful features is relatively small in this release. Let's talk about those. So I've got the feature list again divided based on market as best I can. Of course, as many people point out, and I've pointed out in previous videos, this is a crude division of features, and many people utilize cross-market features. But nonetheless, let's go through what we have. We introduced a parser for 22 different chats. I have said that this is less about us sort of beating our chest on the chats we can do, because a lot of them are, frankly, were already done by FTK. We already had the access to them through Belkasoft. But really, this is a statement to our ability at this point to really start to deliver a large number of chats very quickly to our audience. So 22 in 1 month period, I think, is quite good. And I would expect to see that actually accelerate going forward. We have delivered X-Ways in the past, the ability to parse an X-Ways container, only this time we added incremental support. There were some type of X-Ways containers we could not deal with, and we have solved those problems. We upgraded the DT search index, so we now can do emoji searches. But the UI for the emoji searches isn't there, so you'd have to actually know how to key in an emoji, which I think is beyond the capabilities of most users. So nonetheless, this is just the beginning. We will put the UI in there next release. And then we did a lot of work on the custom URL to optimize them, so so the product can load much faster. If you're only interested in, let's say, 3 features of the product, you should make a custom URL. And then the load time of that custom URL will be dramatically optimized. Loading the whole product takes about 90 seconds, depending on your system. On my system, it's a little bit faster, but it's a long time. It's way too long. But with a basic system and a custom URL, I can load it on my system between 15 and 20 seconds. We introduced self-service capabilities. This is really not of benefit to behind the firewall installation. So if you're a customer that owns Quincy, this is probably not a heck of a lot of use to you unless you're a service provider. If, however, you are a service provider, this is going to be quite useful to you in terms of your ability to cast a wider net, try to attract customers. We replaced all the icons with font-based icons. They look much crisper and nicer. We did some cool work on our Bates history capabilities, and I will show those. And then we have a bunch of work we did in our enterprise and in a QView. I'm not going to talk about enterprise here, as is my tradition with these things. I'm going to focus on Quincy and QView, and I'm only going to demo in the Quincy area. The QView stuff is all being prepared in separate videos, so if you're interested in that, just go look for those videos. But we did introduce a coding panel. We can now create labels and bookmarks inside of QView. We have integration with Imgur, which is really cool, and we have standalone mode. So in fact, now if you've downloaded QView to your desktop, you don't even need to log into Quincy anymore. You can just fire up QView. It's really powerful. I think it's going to be the option of choice, frankly, for pretty much all legal reviewers in any event. Okay, here are the chats that we did this cycle. You'll notice a lot of these are already in FTK. All of them are already in Belkasoft, but nonetheless, we've added them natively into Quincy. And again, we did all these in a period of, I think, sort of 15 days. And so I'd expect to see similar type velocity going forward. Self-service, this is what the self-service page looks like. If you want to, you can just come into this page and create a username and account, and it will create you depending on the licensing that you have. So it allows just sort of random people to come and build accounts, and then you can bill for that. And then finally, our Bates reporting and file naming. So you can now sort of get a sense of all the Bates numbers you've assigned in your case, all the production runs you've done, if you will, and any gaps there might be, and any duplicates Bates that there might be, and the span, if you will. You have a start number of 1 and 33 here. Those are the that's the span of this Bates report with the prefix of ABC. Anyway, you get the gist of it. So those are the key features that are in the release. Let me go demo these three that I've focused on here: the chats, the self-service, and the Bates report file naming. So let's hop into the tool and do that. We'll do it in that exact order. Okay, so here we are in Quincy. Let's first work on the chat one. To do that, I've already processed a case that has chats in it. I called it parse demo, I think. Let's double check. Yep, parse demo. Let's go ahead and load that case. Now again, this is going to be, it's not incredibly simple stuff to parse chat messages. You really kind of have to know what you're doing. So if you want to go into detail here, I recommend, again, looking at the dedicated video. So here are my parsed messages. You can see there are, my chats. You can see there are 114 in them. I'm going to go ahead and expose the folders. I need the folders to do this properly. So you can see now I have the folders. And now let's go ahead and parse some. So I'm going to parse the ICQ and IM plus chats. So to do that, I include both the folder and the sub data. And I right click here and I go to special parsers, JSON parser, and I simply choose the chats. And then I load that. Now this takes a while and it sort of discloses that fact here, but to load a chat, this chat parser, depending on your system, can take anywhere upwards of a minute. So I will pause and resume when it started again, but don't be frustrated, it will eventually load. It's just slow. It's something I will in fact fix in future releases, but for right now you'll just have to grin and bear it. Okay, it loaded, and you can tell because this stuff has popped up. All right, now we're just going to go ahead and run it. It's just that simple. Run, and it says it's submitted the job. Now let's go ahead and look at the job. Parse demo. All right. Let's go see show all jobs, but you can see our job is running. That's good. Should be relatively quick. I mean, not instantaneous, but reasonably fast. All right, it's done. Okay, now we're going to refresh the grid and we should see more than 221 records. And there you go, 242. And let's increase the grid size and go look at those. Those incremental messages are, of course, the chat messages. So let's go ahead and scroll all the way down. And you can see, yeah, here that we have some contacts, we have chat messages, contacts, calls, and we could look at the contents of those by exposing the proper columns or rendering them into Social Analyzer, however. Anyway, that's how that feature works. Again, if you want more detail, refer to the specific video. All right, let's hop straight now into the Bates history report. And file exporting, which I think is particularly cool. So let me open up the report widget. And you can see I'm already on the Bates report. I think you normally open up to the FTK and you have to move to here. And let me show you how this works. You just pick a case that you know has link 7 for me, that I know has Bates numbers in it. And then I search, just do a wildcard search here. Will generate all the records, which these are actually. You know what? To make this effect really work, let me pick a case here that doesn't have any or has only a few. Let me think. I'll just do demo. Let's just do that. And now let's run this. And okay, good. That had none of it, so it cleared our grids. So now we can make a little bit more impactful of a demo here. And we're going to go back to that case, link 7. And we're going to go ahead and type star and run. And at that point, it brings up all the various productions we've run, all the various Bates numbers that we have assigned. And it gives you summary information. It gives you a Bates span report. You can see that this ABC start 1 N33, this DEF start 1 N17, and demo start 1 N2. And you can see what object IDs are in that. If there are any gaps in the Bates record, so if you had, let's say you hadn't numbered from, let's say, 10 to 15, that would show up here. And if there were any duplicates, those would show up here. So that's a good way to get a sense for all the different Bates numbers in your case and get an overview of what you've got. We did do a number of other things with regard to Bates numbers, and let me show you those. First is, let me go into this case that's got these Bates numbers. I think it was link 7. And we're going to open up the grid here. Okay, now specifically what I wanted to show you was these columns. These columns show you the now active Bates numbers in your case. So this would be the start prefix, the end prefix. Excuse me, this is the start prefix, this is the end suffix, this is the start number, this is the page counts. Anyway, it gives you a lot of different number information about your Bates numbers. Let's see if we have any. There we go. I knew we had some in this case, but I just zoomed past some. Okay, there we go. Shoot, I apologize. Here we go. Here you can see that the start number here is 0. The page count is 33. The prefix is ABC. No suffix. A start Bates number, and I'm not exact. Oh, this is the padding set. Width is 4. Now, if you go ahead and assign another Bates number to this document, this will always overwrite. This will only show the now current Bates number. But it can be incredibly useful for getting a good sense, again, of all the Bates numbers in your data set. Finally, we added this to export, which you'll all be familiar with from Summation, frankly. You've been able to export in Summation for a long time using Bates numbers. We weren't able to do that in Quincy, but now you can. So here, choose native or load file will give you this option. And then you come down here to Bates number, and it will export the file based on the Bates number. So the last thing I want to show you is the self-service. I saved that for last, even though it was the second one we talked about earlier, because it requires a log out. So I'm logged in as the administrator here. Let me log out. And again, this is probably only relevant for service providers or people that want to really host an externally facing system. But instead of coming to the login page, Let me just show you something here. If I do demo self and click, I will type ABC123. This is going to fail. It's not going to log in. It says, nope, not successful login. So now I'm going to come and I'm going to create that user. Here, let me do this. Let's do new account. I go to the new account page, and first name we'll call it demo, and last name we'll call it self, and username we're going to call it demo self, and email we'll just do d@d.com, and then we're going to do ABC123. Go ahead and click create. Account created. Throws us back to the login page. Now if we type, demo self and ABC123, log in. You can see I can log in. That user got automatically created. They're going to be thrown into the simple review environment, not into the full system. They will only be able to see cases they create and users they create, or cases that have been shared with them. It's very much sort of a walled environment, so they can't mess with the greater the greater environment and screw up anything they shouldn't be able to. But you can see, right, this guy, we just created it, so he's got access to effectively nothing. He's got no cases, no objects. He could create cases if he wanted to, but that is, if you will, his own sort of homespun environment. The coolest thing is this is integrated with QView. So if he downloads QView, he can now log into this environment from a desktop environment instead of actually even having to come here. It's quite powerful. So those are the three key features I wanted to show you with regard to Quincy in the May release. As always, post if you have any questions, and I hope this was helpful and informative.